Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Good Morning Arkansas. The time is 9:16. It's 40 degrees outside, and Justin Minton of the Minton Law Firm is here to share what you need to know about slip and fall cases. Justin, thanks for coming in. Always great to see you. Let's talk a little bit about this. You know, you've heard people probably say this before. Hey, if I trip and fall at X company or run into the wall or something of that nature, you know, can I get money out of it in a case like that? And what do you want people to know about slip and fall cases that maybe you see sometimes in your offices?
Well, traditionally liability attaches depending upon the status of the victim.
Okay.
So if they're trespassing on the person's property, then there's a different duty owed to that person than if they're, for instance, a licensee, which is somebody who's on the property with permission, but not necessarily associated with the property owner's business. Where you run into it most is with an invitee. An invitee is somebody who enters the property with permission. Usually, you know, you think of like a big box store or something like that.
Okay.
And they're there for mutual benefit of the business and themselves. And there's a higher standard of care for the property owner owed to an invitee. So that's the first thing you got to figure out is why they were there.
How do you know, or if someone is injured, how do you know if the business is actually responsible for their injuries, though?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's a great question. It kind of depends. You know, the plaintiff has to show that there was, you know, some sort of, usually it's a foreign substance on the floor or something that was either left there due to the property owner's negligence. Something like that would be mopping the floors and they didn't put signs out. Or that there was some sort of foreign substance on the floor that had been there for such a long time that the property owner either knew about it or should have known about it and removed it or remedied it.
We have a list of some of the indoor hazardous conditions on the screen right now. Poor lighting,
sure,
I see is one of those. And that's something you guys have to really investigate when cases like this come about, right?
Yeah, slip and fall cases are much more fact specific than, for instance, a car wreck because, you know, you don't have a police report. It can come down to the smallest of facts about, you know, what kind of shoes you were wearing, what color was the substance on the floor, what color was the floor. And there's just a lot more fact investigating that goes on in those. Let's
talk about some outdoor hazardous conditions. Poorly maintained sidewalks headlines this, and you can see some of those around the city, especially maybe at some of the places in front of businesses. You know, what are the terms there? Well, it varies depending on the business, who owns it, and that kind of thing. Okay. You know, hazardous conditions outside of a property are more difficult to pursue than ones inside the business because when you're inside the business wants you to be up. They don't want you looking at the floor. Mm-hmm. They want you shopping, looking at the sale items, spending money, that kind of thing. You know, outside, you've got a duty to watch where you're going as well. So those sometimes can be a lot more tricky. I see snow and ice also on that, and we're getting into the season now where we're going to see that. Sometimes, you know, they call it black ice because it's invisible on maybe the black concrete or the asphalt, and that can be a real hazard out there. Right, yeah, it can. And, you know, property owners don't necessarily have a duty to go out there and just keep naturally falling snow and ice off the property. Where you usually see problems with that is where a property owner does, you know, what they think is the right thing, probably is the right thing, and they go out there and they start cleaning it up, but they miss a spot, you know, for instance, right in front of a door, or, you know, they make a pile of it uphill from a door. It melts a little during the day, water runs in front of the door. And refreezes overnight. Refreezes, and it creates that black ice you talked about. Okay, and finally here, when it comes down to it, and let's say someone says, you know, why didn't you see those boxes in the middle of the floor to someone who is trying to pursue legal action and trying to shift that blame to the customer of one of those stores? You know, how do you draw the line in some of these cases when it is the customer versus the owners or whoever has the property? Well, oftentimes with a slip and fall case, there is some sort of apportionment of liability. You know, it's partially the victim's fault, partially the owner's fault, because the victim has a duty to watch where they're going as well. Okay. And so sometimes, a lot of times you'll see a jury verdict, you know, they put 20% fault on the victim because they just weren't watching where they were going or something. But Arkansas has comparative fault, which means that as long as the victim wasn't more than 50% at fault, then they still recover
whatever that percentage of damages is. So
Okay.
if the store is 80% at fault, the victim recovers 80% of their damages.
Some good things to remember if you're ever involved in any of these. All right, thanks so much for coming in today.
You
Really
bet.
appreciate it, as always. And you can contact the number on your screen for the Minton Law Firm there, 501-653-2111. Coming up after this break, we're sharing great holiday gift guide ideas from the folks at Independent Case Management and the Bravo program.